Hello and welcome back to the Atmosphere's Electric. There's Fran, I'm Rich. How are you, bud?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. You?
Yeah, very happy that we are now fully back into football season mode. It's non-stop already, isn't it? Like literally every day now you can turn the telly on and watch some football from somewhere around the world. It's exciting to have it all back, isn't it?
It is. I must admit, though, my enthusiasm was curbed a little bit in the opening weekend with PSR, with officials and VAR. All of that stuff which happens last year just seems to have rolled forward into this season. There's not really been any progress on the officials and the refereeing front. Like I did sort of slip back into last year and just go, oh, I was hoping for a bit of a reset, but the general football was great.
Yeah, there's obviously the four main talking points, wasn't there, around obviously in the Liverpool Bournemouth game, the handball. I'm now going to forget the other one. There was obviously the Eze goal. There was obviously the penalty in the Man United Arsenal game that wasn't given. I can't think of the other one that was controversial. It's slipping my mind. But like I say, for one game week, that is quite a lot, isn't it, in terms of getting it wrong? And some of them, for me, felt really quite simple to get wrong. I mean, if we start on the Friday night game, Liverpool Bournemouth, like how that's not a handball, I will never ever know.
I saw loads of people slagging Jamie Carragher off, going, "Oh, how biased you have to be." I thought it was the most obvious decision I've seen in a long while, and I think the wording that came out from the VAR was that it was a natural movement. He literally put his hand out and went like this to swipe the ball away. He got away with it because he flicked the ball. If he'd have full on palmed it, they'd have had no choice. But that doesn't matter. Like he touched the ball, and actually, I think it stopped Ekatike getting a touch and running onto it. So
100%. 100%.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I thought 15 minutes into the first game of the season, and we were already talking about VAR, and it's already a shocker. It's not even that it was just 50-50, it was a shocker. And I thought that curbed my enthusiasm straight away. Oh, one of my best mates is a Leeds fan, and he was sending me the rules, going, "Oh, if you lean into it," I thought, "What's he meant to do? Just let the ball go by him?" He had his arm by his side. Yes, he's leant into it to block it, but he's trying to block the ball in general with his body. He didn't stick his arm out. I thought it was an absolute shocker of a decision.
Yeah, not for me. But the one that really, I mean, again, the Man U penalty. If we go back through the annals of time, there's lots of teams that could have, should have, would have had a penalty if it had been given. I'm not saying it's right that it was wrong, but that's happened a lot. But the one that was a real smack in the face for me was the Eze goal that was disallowed for Crystal Palace. That rule has never been applied before. I've seen probably 50 photos or stills of free kicks being taken, in the last 12 months where there's someone within a metre of the wall. Just, it felt like such an injustice to me.
Even the actual rule itself doesn't make sense to me. You basically say you can't go anywhere near the wall. Like, what the attacking team meant to do? Just stand around outside the box? Then, like, it makes no sense. The rule itself doesn't make sense. You're not given, like, surely as the attacking team, you should have a bit of an advantage of having a free kick. You're basically saying the defensive team's got most of the advantage. You can set the wall up where they want. The goalkeeper doesn't have to be blocked by anyone in the view. Like, I just think it's a stinking rule. Like, and that when I saw the actual free kick, if somebody then said to me, "Why has it been pulled up?" Never in a million years would I have known why it's been pulled up. And then I've seen some of these idiots online going, "You don't know the rules." You shouldn't have to know the rules to know that that's a goal. No keeper in the world would have saved that, regardless of where anyone was standing.
So my point is that I know the rules because I've actually set my team up to bend. So the idea now is that you have to set your wall up. So if you're an attacking team and you want to put a wall up next to the wall, it has to be a metre away. I know that. That's not a grey area for me. I've known that since it was brought into play. My point is very different to that, in the sense that they've never ever applied that rule before until that day, that spot, that moment you've decided to find a way not to give the goal. That you've never ever, I've never seen one not given for that in the past, and there's multiple times where we can evidence that there was someone within a metre of the wall. It just felt like they were trying to do, and again, the trouble is that actually what it does is it made the game, in my opinion, if Palace go 1-0 up, because it was quite a dull game. If you watched the whole game, I thought Chelsea were very poor, if I'm being honest. I thought Palace looked really good, albeit didn't make a huge amount of chances. But actually, Palace go 1-0 up, it brings Chelsea out, and actually it makes it a better spectacle for the paying fan. I spoke to my Chelsea mates that paid to go, and they were like, we could have left half time. We were bored sensitive, like it was not a good game. And so you're killing football a little bit because actually we want to see goals, we want to see controversy, we want to see excitement. And if Paris go 1-0 up, Chelsea have to come back and play a different style, a different way.
They seem to be jumping into decisions that they're not wanted, and the decisions that they are wanted, i.e. the handball against Bournemouth for Liverpool, they're going, oh, it's a natural movement. You think, where are you getting some of your decisions from? Like, and nothing seems to change. Like, you expect things to change in a new season, but nothing changes. So for me, I completely lost my appetite of football over the weekend, and then it sort of added in this PSR sort of stuff, and you see clubs moving players on for ridiculous fees or low fees, depending on whether they need cash and whether they're trying to help each other out. And I just thought, this isn't what I used to love about football. Like, fans now talk about transfers and they're going, oh, if we sell this person, it'll clear their book value. Who gives a toss about somebody's book value as a fan? It completely killed football. VAR, PSR, anything that's got a R in it, bugger off.
Richard, all right, see you later. Fran. That's us done. Yeah, look, I think it's, I suppose it's no surprise that Ramsey left Aston Villa for Newcastle for 43 million quid, and that probably sums it up, right?
Absolutely sums it up.
That probably sums it up. I do think, though, that actually there are some teams that possibly have got the wrong end of the stick with PSR. Aston Villa may be one of them. You can't run a business at, I think it's now down to 94%, but it was over 100% of wages to income value. And this was put in place for teams like Leeds that nearly went pop back in the day.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. PSR was brought in to stop clubs, like you said, like Leeds back in the day, going pop. However, it's been turned into something which is now affecting clubs from operating or spending money in a way to compete if they're trying to progress, which other teams have been allowed to do. And again, don't get me wrong, some clubs have done it really well, some have done it really poorly. So I'm not defending some of the clubs like Villas, Leicester's, like, who have done it really poorly. However, other clubs previously have had the ability to spend what they want, progress the club and move forward. Whereas now, I said, from a transfer perspective, you used to get excited if you got linked to some people. Now people are on about, oh, if we sell this player, we clear their book value. We can't sell them for this because it used to be able to say, if you wanted a player out the door, you got them out. You probably take a hit on them. Now clubs are having to keep hold of them because it's going to affect their PSR stance. Like, it's just crippling some clubs. And again, some clubs have done it really poorly. I just think this isn't football.
And as fans, we shouldn't even know about this, really. It shouldn't be a topic. But it's like I say, we want our club to be there forever, and we want the protection that PSR gives it. But I think, and again, I don't think social media helps in the sense that we just know too much, don't we? We're just too involved now. Like, if your team gets linked to some random player from a million years away that you've never seen before you know you're an expert on him. You're fully invested in them coming in. When they don't come, the club don't know what they're doing. They've had all week to get them over the line. They can't get. Whereas I just think that there's just information overload. Back in the day, you just used to go to a match on a Saturday. It ruined your weekend if your team lost. It made your weekend if your team won, and you go back again on Wednesday night, watch them again, and not worry about the bit in between.
I think, the old saying, if you go down the pub after the game and you'd have a good chat with your mates, that seems to have gone away.
Oh,
you go down. Well, people don't go down the pub anymore. That's your first thing. But if you do go down the pub after a game, you don't probably talk about the game. You're talking about VAR, the officials. You're talking about how your club's. It's not like it used to be. You used to go to a game. You'd either enjoy it, hate it, depending on the result, and then you'd have a chat about it. It's not the same. I think football is gradually dying until something happens with this nonsense PSR and VAR. Like, there needs to come back to a bit of emotions. I feel like emotions being taken out of the game.
Yeah, 100%. Talking of emotions, how did our challenges get on last week and our bankers of the week? So, of course, we are now very much focused on forward-thinking predictions. So how did we get on last week, Fran? How many of the 10 did you get right?
So so from a predictions perspective, I got 7 out of 10 with 1 correct score. And you got 6 out of 10 with 0 correct scores. So not a bad start. We were just a little bit unlucky with some of the games. From the £5 challenge perspective, we both ended up losing due to Chelsea. I also had Everton, so we are both -5 on the P&L. From a bank perspective, you had Man City, so you are you're £4.44 up from your £10. I was really angry because my double of Liverpool and Man City to win most shots, most corners was in until the 93rd minute, and then Konate decided to slice one out for a corner in the 93rd minute, and then decided to head the ball back for another corner to lose in the 93rd minute. So I was fuming because it was in.
The season's back.
He had an absolute mare, but right at the death, he was facing the wrong way and he kicked it and it went behind him for a corner. I was like, how are you a pro footballer and you've kicked it in the wrong direction?
Listen, I've watched many a pro footballer kick a ball in the wrong direction. Don't worry about that.
So if he's listening, you owe me £42.29, mate.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll take that on board as well. I'm sure that'll be no problem at all. Let's see if we can do better this week. And again, we have Friday night football. Now, two teams that impressed me the least this last game week was West Ham United and Chelsea. Let's quickly touch on West Ham. Simple question: are they in a relegation battle already?
So, after one game of the Premier League season, I think we already know who's in a relegation battle and who isn't. And 100% West Ham are. I thought they were so poor. I thought the football that they played was sluggish. It was slow. It's very Graham Potter-esque, but I don't think that they've got enough going forwards to scare teams. Like, they don't have any pace in the side. They didn't previously, but they've sold Kudus, who was probably the only one who did have pace. I thought they looked really, really poor. So for me, for this game, Chelsea are my banker of the week. I know they were very poor previously, but West Ham are that poor. I can't see how Chelsea don't win this game. So I'm going for my banker of the week being Chelsea, 8-13.
So I have them in my £5 challenge, but they're not my banker of the week because, again, just being honest, I can see this being a very low-scoring game. I thought Chelsea looked toothless. I thought Chelsea was very slow in the build-up. I didn't see any real threat. Now, again, Crystal Palace are a very, very well-organised team, and they're very good, very good to watch. But I just thought that Chelsea, they looked like they still had a World Club Cup hangover. Once they didn't look ready. They looked underbaked to me.
You've just taken the words out of my mouth. I think that almost pre-season that they've had is going to start them off slowly. So I think this week of hopefully it'll give them some rest. They'll have a full week off. I think that will do them the world of good. I can see them just having a little bit too much. Like I said, they've got no pace in the team, West Ham, and that's one thing that Chelsea do have in the team is pace. So I just think that they'll cause them too much harm down the flanks, really, and I think they'll probably pop a couple past West Ham.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree. So we're saying this stage, unless, and again, we still got the caveat, but I think I'll get out of jail free card because the transfer window is still open. Unless West Ham have a fantastic last couple of weeks of the transfer window, they are banging trouble, aren't they?
They're in trouble. I mean, I don't think they'll go down because, again, judging by what I've already seen, and like you said, there's still a few weeks of the transfer window left. I think there's three worse teams than West Ham, and West Ham were really poor, but they are bang in trouble.
And has it changed your opinion? And again, we're obviously being reactive. That's what happens in life. That's the reality of it. Has it changed your opinion of where Chelsea could finish? Because there was quite a few people starting to get on that Chelsea could actually go and win the league. I don't think that we had that conversation. I don't think that we thought that. And I haven't seen anything to change my opinion that Man City are the place to be. But do you think Chelsea are at risk if they don't turn it around of actually missing out on top four?
Possibly. I mean, I do think that they'll finish fourth. That's where I thought they'd finish. And I do probably think, I think you've got to give Chelsea a little bit more time. Like you said, they are coming back from the Club World Cup. I think they'll be knackered, if I'm being honest. That, like we said before, it's whether it's not that's going to go into like pre-season and they're going to have higher levels of fitness. I can see it working the other way. But I do think when I look at the rest of the league, I still think they have got a very good squad. I've never thought they're in with a shot at winning the league, though. I still think they're miles off it.
Don't disagree. This could be quite a hostile atmosphere, couldn't it? Because if West Ham don't get off to a good start, if Chelsea went maybe 1 or 2, you could see the locals getting a little bit restless. You could see that becoming quite because, again, there's not many positive. There's not even many sort of positive links coming through from West Ham in terms of who they're looking to buy. In fact, if anything, I'm hearing more about who might be leaving rather than who's coming.
I was just about to say, I wonder what odds he is to be the next manager to leave, and he's actually favourite. It's 9-4, which surprised me a little bit because I thought there'd be a few others around him, but I think he is the one because he said the West Ham fans, when they do turn, they turn quite badly, don't they? And he obviously had a very poor end to the season, was given a grace period because it wasn't his squad. He's coming in learning, but he's not started well at all. So he's under pressure already.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
It's a shame. We like English managers to do well, don't we? But
listen, the only manager that's under more pressure than right now is Russell Nye. I mean, that fan base have turned on that man like you cannot believe. I saw a great quote today because he goes out with Lucy Pinder, doesn't he?
I think I know exactly what you're going to say.
And he's still the
How do you
biggest
live
tit
in
in
a
the
house
house.
with Lucy Pinder and still be the biggest tit?
Yeah, which made me chuckle for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because he uses the word tit, and secondly, because it's a good game. Yeah, obviously he's under extreme pressure, but for me, and I saw someone call it, or I didn't see it, I heard someone call it the other day around Potter to be gone by November and Frank Lampard to be brought in. Now, obviously, Frank Lampard had obviously it's where he started his career, but then of course they sort of slightly turned against him. Obviously, not slightly, very much turned against him when he went to Chelsea. Just an interesting thought process because obviously Coventry are doing some good bits and pieces in the Championship, but whether the pull of West Ham would be enough to get Frank back, so one to maybe keep an eye on. So I thought that was an interesting piece. If West Ham don't get a result quickly, I can see this becoming a very awkward period for Graham Potter. And again, I don't see where he goes from here. If he can't get it right at West Ham, I don't see where he goes next.
His stock will have gone from there, and it's just gone absolutely through the floor, hasn't it? Like, I think he'll always get chances because he is a good coach. What he needs to do, though, is I can't believe he went to West Ham. So we were all saying when he went, as a club, you think, you look on it and you go, yeah, they're a good club, they're a big club, big stadium, can attract good players in London. That squad was never set up for his style of play. He must have had to have been promised to have had 20 players out, 20 players in, and that hasn't happened. If anything, he's lost more players than they brought in. It's not set up to play Graham Potter football at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, this transfer window, although there's been some really good stuff happen, it does feel like it's a bit sticky at the moment, doesn't it? It feels like actually there's not a lot. Actually, the deals that are being talked about for quite a while. There's not a lot of actual kind of, oh, blimey, where's that come from? And so, like I say, if West Ham can keep Paquetá, I heard that there's another couple of players that have got some things sort of sticking around them, which I think could leave them a little bit threadbare. But we kick off on Friday night, 8 o'clock, West Ham versus Chelsea. The score will be
West Ham 0, Chelsea 2.
Do you know what? I'm going to go against every inner morsel of what I think is actually going to happen. I'm going to go West Ham 1, Chelsea 2. I think it'll be 1-0 Chelsea, if I'm honest with you, but I'm going to go 1-2 to hopefully kick us off with a slightly more exciting start to the game week, as we did last week with obviously Liverpool beating Bournemouth 4-2, which was a great game. I thought Bournemouth did really well. We have the notoriously tricky for two reasons. So if ever there's a tricky fixture to do, the early kickoff on a Saturday is tricky. Couple that with it being Manchester City versus Tottenham Hotspur, this becomes impossible to predict. This could be anything. Now, I will say that Man City impressed me greatly in the demolition of Wolverhampton Wanderers last week.
They did. I'm still taking into account of how poor Wolves were, though. I think Wolves are one of the teams that look worse than West Ham, which is saying something. I think they are in a world of trouble. They've lost all their best players. They've not really signed any. They've signed some replacements from Brazil, but you just have no idea how they're going to adapt. I thought they looked really, really poor. So taking that into account, but yes, I think Man City did look very good. I like some of the signings. Reinders looks a hell of a player for how much they've got him for as well. You can still buy good players at good prices. Yeah, I thought they looked really good. I want to see them being tested at the back still, though. So I still think they're pretty weak at the back. Rico Lewis, I still don't particularly rate. So I think Spurs will give them a test this week. Normally, I'm pretty confident on a Spurs victory against Man City. I normally look at them and think they're a bit of a bogey side, but I think with the way that the style's changing under Frank, I can't really see them causing as many problems as they would have under an Ange, and sort of the attacking sense, I think, is when Man City fall down against teams who attack them. So I can sort of just see that changing a little bit under Thomas Frank. So I can't see as a victory for Spurs.
No, definitely not. But what I would say is that the Brentford team scored early against Man City last year. They gave them a bit of a bloody nose, if you remember, in both games. I think, or certainly the away game. And Tottenham seem to have a little bit of difference about them. And I guess obviously playing Burnley at home is not really the reference point. So you have to revert back to them playing PSG in the Super Cup as being maybe a bit more of a blueprint that Tottenham might try. I don't know, obviously, of course, but you might see them try a different shape. What I do like about what Thomas Frank is doing is that already now that's two different shapes in two different games, two different personnel utilised. So again, against the Burnley, he brought in the two youngsters in midfield. Against the PSG, he had Bentancur and Polina. They've got options in there. This for me is still, by the way, because I think Manchester City that far ahead, this is still a home win. But for me, it's going to be interesting to see how Thomas Frank approaches this game because so far he's using a different system for every game he's played.
And I think if you're a Premier League manager now, I can't see how you can be wedded to one system anymore. Like, unless you're Pep Guardiola and you've got the best players in the world at your disposal and you just do plan A and plan B is to do plan A better. Like, I can sort of understand that. But if you're a general Premier League manager that's not Pep Guardiola, I think you've got to have multiple ways of playing. I don't think that you can set up against teams and expect plan A to work. So I really like that about Thomas Frank, and I like the players that he's got at his disposal and some of the ones that have been brought in to change shape, and some attack with pace, some are quite tricky. You've got Paulinho in there who's just a ball winner who's so good and so strong, which is what Spurs have needed. So I really like what they're doing there. I just think this Man City team might have a few too many answers for them, and going the other way, I think they'll probably just keep the ball away from Spurs to be able to allow them not to attack with pace at them.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, obviously, Richarlison got off to a great start, but again, he doesn't fill me with the same confidence playing against the Manchester City as he does at Burnley at home. So I think potentially in that format, historically when Spurs have caused upsets, it's been off the back of a Harry Kane masterclass or a Heung-min Son masterclass or a combination of the two.
That's what used to do them, wasn't it? That's where I look now and I think you haven't got someone like a Son who's pacey, because he was normally the one, wasn't he? Son that caused the problems, who would run at them with pace down the wings through into the channels.
Kulusevski.
Yeah, so I don't think he's of the same previously of what Son used to be.
I mean, yeah, Kulusevski's not back yet, but in terms of that they were the three, weren't they? If they had Son, Kulusevski, and Kane on the break, you could play 8 back and have them 3 just go and run and cause a mock. So I think we both agree this is a Man City win. What have you got the score being?
I've gone for Man City 3, Spurs 1.
That's exactly what I've got. So that is exactly what I've got. I think it might be tight for a while, but I see Man City in the latter stages maybe picking up a couple of late goals to take that home now. The team that surprised me last week, we now move on to the 3 o'clock kickoffs in a positive way with Bournemouth. I thought they held themselves really well. I thought going 2-0 down, obviously with the horrible incident that happened with Semenyo as well, I thought they came back and looked like at one point they were going to hold on for the draw. Obviously, Liverpool then went on to win the game, play Wolverhampton Wanderers. Bournemouth are doing a couple of bits in the transfer market as well. This, for me, feels like pretty much home banker for me.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I didn't quite like the odds. I think there are odds on against Wolves, which doesn't surprise me because I thought Wolves are so poor. But Bournemouth, I was quite worried for them before the Liverpool game. Not really for the season, but just for the Liverpool game. Because I looked at the team and I thought, you've lost a lot of star players there. Zabarnis, Dean Huijsen from the back. And I thought, you possibly might be a bit wobbly here, but I was really impressed with them. Especially second half. I was a little bit disappointed from them when they scored the 2 goals that they sat back. Because I thought if you'd have carried on going, I'd have fancied you to win the game. Like, I thought second half, I know they conceded 2 to lose, but I thought they battered Liverpool, if I'm being honest. I was really impressed. Going forwards, I think Bournemouth will be absolutely fine. Hopefully they can bring in a couple of players. They've had some good money come into the club, so hopefully they can get a couple more players. I was impressed with Truffert at left back. Don't think they'll miss Kirkes in the slightest. I think if anything, he may be a slight upgrade. I think, yeah. I mean, Kirkes was dreadful for Liverpool, but I think he might be a slight upgrade. So I like that signing. I think they'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, I think this will be a comfortable home win for Bournemouth.
So we spoke about West Ham, and you referenced Wolves as one of the teams that are worse. So if we think West Ham are in trouble but will survive, Wolverhampton Wanderers are in trouble. Will they survive?
No, I think they'll go. I think they'll be one of the 3 that go down. They've teetered on the edge now. If you took Cunha out of that team last year, there was a serious possibility that they went down, and that's saying something considering how poor the 3 that came up and went down were. He's now out of that team. He's not been replaced at all. There's also talk that Strand Larsen could be off. If they lose him, they could finish bottom.
Well, and Hwang might be going to Palace as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's been in and out, hasn't he? Which surprises me when I look at some of their players that he is in and out, because to me, he looks like one of their better players. But I feel sorry for the manager, really do, because after what he did last season, coming in, he galvanised the team, the club, the fans, and he's just been sold down the river by the look of it. Like, players sold under his feet and just not replaced.
Yeah, it feels to me like, of course, they haven't given up, but almost like there's an air of inevitability about it. It just feels
from the
negative, doesn't it?
Yeah, from the fact they've been at odds with the owner for a long period of time, haven't they? And last season almost brought them back a little bit by the manager coming in, doing what they did. They did sign some players in January, and it looked like they were almost having a go to stay up. And then you expected them to kick on. But players have been sold, so they're just falling back into their standard operating model of it seems like they're doomed. Which, again, they might get to January and then spend a bit of money, but you can't keep doing that. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you and you'll be caught and you'll go down.
The other thing that worried me watching the game live was that if you're going to be up against it, you need your goalkeeper to be bang on. And I thought Jose Sarr looked like age had caught up on him. I thought he looked like nowhere near the goalkeeper that he'd looked previously. I've always rated him. I always thought he was a very good goalkeeper. But for me, he didn't look right. He didn't look like he was going to be a goalkeeper that you can kind of sort of bank to be making the saves that you expect or need him to be making.
Yeah, especially as when you look around him, you know, and you look at the right back, Nelson Semedo has been a rock at the back for them, hasn't he? Who's no longer there, so that they've lost a lot of senior players as well as the star players. So I'd imagine in the dressing room they do look up to Jose Sarr now. So it might have just been a bit of pressure on him because he seems to be sort of one of the constants that has been there years, and he looks to be the only one. So I don't know whether pressure has got to him or whether he's felt there's a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. But yeah, I agree. He didn't look very good. The whole team didn't look very good. And the manager, you remember last season, he was up and down the touchline. Didn't see a lot of that from him as well. He looked resigned to the fact that they could be in trouble.
I agree. So Bournemouth host Wolverhampton Wanderers. The score will be?
I've gone Bournemouth 2, Wolves 0.
I'm going to go 3-0 Bournemouth. I think, I just think at home, good feel about Bournemouth. Like I say, you can lose a game, and as we talk about, one team loses a game and it feels like a really, really heavy sort of backward movement. One can lose a game, but actually it feels positive. I think Bournemouth come out of the Anfield game feeling like they've certainly got a lot of positives, team unity together. I can see that being a very comfortable home win. Another team that was remarkably unimpressive at the weekend was Brentford, who host Aston Villa. Now, to go early, Aston Villa are my banker of the week.
I'm glad you said that because they were very nearly mine as well. I can't see how they don't win this game.
And by the way, they're 11-10, so at above evens currently. Wissa's showing no signs of he's showing signs of not wanting to be anywhere but Brentford, removing all of their pictures from his Instagram and changing his back screen, all that kind of jazz. As much as Aston Villa didn't look great against Newcastle are at a different level to Brentford. I think this is the game that will get Aston Villa back on track. Aston Villa has made a couple of interesting signings, and I think this will be just too much for Brentford. I don't see this being anything other than a comfortable Aston Villa win. And I think Brentford really need to get a move on in the window because otherwise they're going to sell the manager short.
I agree with you entirely. I think this is, I mean, you said they were very nearly my banker. I just sort of plumped for Chelsea because I thought West Ham were poorer than Brentford. That was the only reason why I went that way. But Brentford, to me, look like one of the three that could go down. They don't look like they've got any ability to score goals. They looked so rocky at the back. The manager has now had one game's Premier League experience. Like from being sort of a model club, the decisions that have been made there to me have baffled me. They look like a team now that have gone from that level and have gone poof and plummeted. Like you said, unless something happens in the window for them. And I mean, but they've bought Atara, haven't they, for £40 million? Like, that is not what Brentford do. Like it looks like this model that they've got, they've gone away from it and they've lost their identity a little bit. And I'm really worried for them. I think they're nailed on. I thought they were 9-2 at the beginning of the season to go down. And I thought that was great odds. They've shortened a lot since then, and I'd still be putting money on them.
You can't help but feel sorry for Brentford. Now, obviously, we've been speaking on here for years about the fact that Thomas Frank deserved a chance at a bigger club. But not only did they lose Thomas Frank, it's rare these days that a manager takes all of their backroom staff with them as well. So actually, the guy they wanted to replace Thomas Frank has gone to Tottenham as well. And so it kind of left them in a little bit of limbo, didn't it? And they've gone with, as they did in the past.
It did leave them in limbo, but to then go with a guy who's completely unproven, he might be good in and around the training ground and give off the right side. He's got no experience whatsoever. It's a huge, huge risk. And then when you add, I think you couple that with you've lost your star player in Mbeumo and possibly your striker and your captain, I think it's a risk that was not worth taking. I think you'd had to go down the proven experience route for a season to almost rebuild.
And again, this goes underrated for me. You've left out Ben Mee from that as well. So you think about the leadership team at Brentford, then me, Christian Norgard, and then you look at the Flaring and Buemo and Vista, you've taken all that out of your squad, plus you've lost. And again, by the way, Thomas Frank is seriously impressing me with
keeper as
how.
well.
Yeah,
Keeper as well.
absolutely.
You're bringing in a guy who's he's rated, but he's never been a number one.
So for me, your spine of your team's done. You've got a new manager, and you've not given yourself the tools to go and again, Brentford historically would have gone out into Scandinavia, they would have gone out into Eastern Europe, they would have got players in, they would have players that, not heard of this guy before you know he's a Premier League regular scorer, chipping in, etc. They look light all over the pitch, and Aston Villa are just going to have the squad is just too strong. I just can't see how Brentford get anywhere near this.
I agree. And on the Brentford front, for me, it's a real shame because I've really enjoyed watching Brentford grow as a club. And like you said previously, Frank would have gone and they'd have dipped into the market like for a manager, and they'd have plucked out a manager from somewhere, and you'd have gone, "Oh, that's a bit strange." Where they got him, but they've had a bit of a good record behind the scenes, and you could have seen why they've done it. Whereas this just screams that they've almost gone, "No idea, let's bring somebody in house." And I really do hope Keith Andrews works, because if it does work, you can then turn around and go, Brentford know what they're doing, and you can still hold them up as a shining light. I just feel that they've gone away from that. So yeah, Villa will be far too strong for Brentford for me, and I think that 11 to 10 price is a fantastic bet.
Yeah, but the one manager that always jumped out at me was the Bodo Glimt manager.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say. He seems to me to be the most natural, perfect fit to go and drop in at Brentford. It's like, there's your low-hanging fruit. Like, he's done an amazing job with a tiny little team, playing lovely football. Let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago that everybody was saying that they were going to knock Spurs out of the semi-finals. And he just sat there waiting to go. He'd have been able to bring some players over with him as well, because Brentford could have done that. It just felt to me like that was your low-hanging fruit, and you've missed it by they're almost trying to out Brentford with the appointment, in my opinion. Yeah, they've just had the blueprint. And do you know what? You can throw this comment at loads of clubs of why they've gone downhill. You had the blueprint. You thought you were too big for the blueprint now, and you've gone away from it. And that seems to me, like I said, there's loads of clubs that you can throw that accusation at. And I just feel that they've gone away from being Brentford.
Completely agree. So what you've gone for, what score?
I've gone for Brentford 0, Villa 2.
Gone 0-3.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if more goals are scored.
0-3. We have got lots of teams that we think could be down the bottom, followed by Burnley hosting Sunderland, who I think we both think now are going to be more of a mid-table team than a relegation fodder. Does that sound fair to you?
I saw a comment on Match of the Day's Twitter account where they said, have Sunderland given the promoted clubs a blueprint? And I commented back with, what, buying good players? It's not hard, is it? You look at what Sunderland have done and you compare them to Burnley. And also Leeds. Leeds have gone away. They've done their homework, and they've bought in 3-4 players. Bit unheard of. But as watching that game on, was it Monday?
Monday night.
You could tell that they were good players. Sunderland have gone away. They've spent a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But that money, they've gone and bought good players. They've backed it up statistically. They've signed a couple of experienced heads. Ronaldo's a good signing. There's players that they've bought there, and I think it's not actually hard to have a transfer strategy and go and buy those players. Obviously you've got to have the money to be able to do it, but when you look at the promoted clubs from last season, I couldn't have told you one player where you've gone, oh, that looks an interesting signing on paper. A lot of it was very, very poor. So I don't think they've given a blueprint. I think they've actually just ran their club well, is what you should do. But Sunderland will not be in trouble this season at all. And it's not off the back of one performance. When you look at the business they've done, Granit Xhaka, like, you're not going to be in trouble when you've got Granit Xhaka in the middle of the park dictating things. He's more than good enough to be playing in the top end of the Premier League. He's not going to be around the relegation zone, so they'll be absolutely fine. Burnley, on the other hand, are nailed on to finish rock bottom for me. Where do they score goals? They've lost. I mean, their strength was defensive stability. They've lost the keeper. They've lost the centre half. Like, I just can't. They're not the same club that they were coming up, which is a real shame, because I was excited to see how that defensive style transitioned into the Premier League, but they've just had the heart ripped out from them with the goalie in the centre half. I just can't see how they score goals and then keep them out at the other end.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue that they're going to be relegated at this stage. It's just really, as always, it's who's going to be the worst. And yeah, I get it. Obviously it feels more comfortable saying Burnley than Wolves or Brentford. but they all look to be the same. And you know, for a period of time, Burnley were the better team against Spurs. They obviously went behind early. Then for sort of the 50 minutes between goals, Burnley were at least given as good as they got. But you're right in the sense that they never looked like they were going to capitalise on that superiority and those opportunities. And then, of course, went on to concede more goals, whereas obviously Sunderland looked tight at the back, look exciting going forward. As you say, made some great signings. The one thing I think is really important to reference here is that Sunderland, if you think about where they were when they played Coventry in the semi-final, that they had to score in the whatever it was, I can't remember if it was extra time or the last minute of normal time, but to win that tie. When they went to the final, no one gave them a chance against Sheffield United. You know, they had no prep to go they were going to be in the Premier League. They thought, for all intents and purposes, they were going to be in the Championship until the minute they weren't in the Championship. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And the way they've done this window with knowing that is absolutely phenomenal, because anyone else that's come up will tell you that going through the playoffs, it means you're 4 or 5 or 6 weeks behind everybody else. And Leeds and Burnley knew they were going to be in the Premier League probably back in February, right? So Sunderland do what they've done knowing they're in the Premier League in the middle of May is absolutely unbelievable.
I think they've just showed you what you can do with a proper, I don't know whether they've got a director of football, so I'm not going to comment on actual personnel, but quite clearly this setup behind the scenes from the structure to the manager is all on the same page. They've known exactly what they're going for. They've targeted players like a Xhaka and Ronaldo, where you go, we need some experience, put them in the team. And you can tell that from Xhaka because they also were talking about Jordan Henderson. So they've clearly identified a type of person, leader, middle of the park. They've then gone, we need young, hungry players that if we do go down, we can buy them at a price and possibly sell them for the same or have more value in them if they perform well. They've almost took the Ipswich and Delap model. That's what you've got to do coming up. You've got to identify good players who you buy at a certain value and they can give you more value, which helps with this nonsense PSR. But that's all they've done. And then you add in some of the players, and also that ground is going to play a huge factor for them. When there's fans in there, it's absolutely rocking. So that home ground is going to be a fortress. And I think they'll pick up a lot more points than people think. They'll be nowhere near relegation for me.
And the fans are happy. The Sunderland fans are probably right now the happiest fans in the whole of England. They are buzzing, absolutely buzzing, and rightly so. Now, this is still a tough game.
Get another Sunderland till I die. Get him on for the Premier League. I want to see that.
Look, it might be in the works, mate. But I don't know. It might be in the works. Now, I've actually put Sunderland in my £5 challenge, albeit I still think it's slightly risky.
I was going to, and then just remove them at the last second because it is slightly risky. But I think is it 11-5 they are?
Well, 21-10, yeah, 2-1.
Yeah, good price.
And for that reason, I've gone with it because I think sometimes you've got to have a little bit of a punt, and I do think that Sunderland are further down the process. So I'm going to go with Sunderland 2, Burnley 0.
I have got the exact same score, 0-2.
There we go. We are rocking and rolling. Another team that I was really unimpressed with, even though they got a victory, was Arsenal. They host Leeds at 5:30 at the Emirates Stadium on Saturday night. I just thought they looked a little bit dull, clueless, and almost like they're starting to be their own height. I don't quite know what Arsenal are anymore. Like I look at Zubimendi in the midfield, and I'm thinking, right, they've got the ball winner, they're going to be playing beautiful football. You've got Saka on the wing, you've got Mark, and then it's just a bit. It was Man United were the ones creating all of the excitement. They looked like they'd been together for long. It just left me feeling a little bit not worried for Arsenal because they're going to be there or thereabouts, but I don't think they're as close as people think they are.
I was really impressed with Arsenal and also really unimpressed with Arsenal. So defensively, I thought they were superb.
Yeah.
And when you were saying you sort of don't know what you're going to get, I just think you're seeing them transition almost to the 1-0 to the Arsenal teams that of previous years. I don't think they're going to be this free-flowing team. When the more I look at it from the evidence of where they've come from to where they've gone, even when you look at the signings they've got two pretty much almost like centre halves at fullback, and then in the backup they've gotten more. I mean, apart from Lewis Skelly, but they've got more centre halves as backups to the fullbacks. So they are playing pretty much 4 centre halves across the back. Defensively in the middle of the park, yes, Zubimendi is great on the ball, but he's also very good defensively. Like you wouldn't say he's an attacking defensive midfielder. He keeps the ball very well and he ticks the play over, but he is a defensive midfielder. Declan Rice, as good as he is on the ball going forward, is a defensive midfielder. they're heavily reliant on Odegaard, which he does get a lot of stick, and I
He
do
does.
feel for him. But he is one person in the middle against three. So I just feel that they're set up to be defensive. This is going to be their style of play. Like if you're going to say what are you going to watch on a Saturday, Arsenal wouldn't be one of my picks, but I think they'll win a lot of games and will concede very little goals. So I am impressed with their defensive setup, but very unimpressed with their style of play. Because if you're an Arsenal fan, it's not what you want to watch. It's boring. But I I think they'll win a lot of games. I feel for Joker as well. He got a hell of a lot of stick, and I was impressed with him because he was up there by himself. He held the ball off. He got a lot of fouls where he was strong, really strong. Made some good runs as well and was never found. I feel for him because if that's the style they're going to play, he's not going to score a lot of goals for Arsenal. He's going to be used as a hold-up centre forward to bring others in, but he's not going to score the goals that he did at Sporting because they're not set up to be that style of team.
No, I'll give myself a pat on the back for my suggestion around keeping Sesko off the pitch and bringing him on for a cameo, because actually now everyone's buzzing about Sesko and everybody's banging on about Gokares not being good enough. I think that they should have started with Havertz and then brought him on because centre forward is a confidence thing. Like Højlund, if you remember when he came to Man United, was a centre forward full of confidence from Serie A, scored a barrel load of goals, don't score for a couple of games, and it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. So I just felt that they threw him in, got a bit excited when actually, and again, I know that Havertz has come back from injury, whatever else, but for me, I would have gone with somebody else and then brought him on, knowing that you've got Leeds at home in the next game, who are more open. That Leeds came and attacked everything. In the first half, Leeds were fantastic, albeit not a lot of cutting edge. So I can see Arsenal being able to pick them off on the break. I can see Gokares, Saka, and maybe Martinelli having some transitional luck. But yeah, I just thought they threw him under the bus a little bit in a game where they went for a 1-0 win and they got a 1-0 win.
Yeah, I was impressed with him though. Like I saw him get a lot of stick. Going, oh, what a flop. I was actually really impressed with him because he was never, with the way that they played, he was never going to be creating chances himself. He was up against three defenders pretty much by himself. And I thought his strength, he held the ball up really well. He brought others into play. And considering he had two people running by, and as opposed to Sporting, he probably had 4 and 5, or was up against 1 or 2 defenders. Like I thought he performed really well. I think if you're looking at a fantasy, I'd probably give him 1 more week to see how he gets on against Leeds and see if Arsenal do attack I say smaller clubs, I don't mean it, the Leeds are small, but lower down the table clubs. See how they get on. If it still go for this style of play, I'd be whipping him out straight away because I don't think he's going to be what people think he is as a goal scorer, be used as a battering ram, I think.
Yeah, and while we talk about fantasy and Arsenal, if you had Saka, I'd be removing him because he's lost the penalties, and I think he's only scored 6 non-penalty goals in about 16 months. So I think Gokares has taken over the responsibility of the penalties. So I'd be thinking about at 10.5 million. I think I'd be looking to drop him out and use that money elsewhere personally. Look, I think Leeds made a good start. I think they started the game really well. I thought Everton came back in the second half, and again we've discussed they got maybe a little bit lucky, not maybe, definitely got lucky with the penalty. How do you see this one going Saturday night, 5:30?
I thought Leeds were really good. I thought coming back in, it's exactly what you need as a promoted club to get your 3 points on the board and your confidence built from there. So I thought they were really good, and I don't think they'll have any problems at all. I think that Tanaka in the middle of the park is a hell of a player. He'll be more than good enough to dominate some games. And then I thought Ampadu was really good as well. So putting those two in the middle, I'm still a bit worried about their defence. I think they could, which I was surprised by Everton. I didn't think they really gave it a good go against. When I looked at the defence, I thought, oh, you look a bit shaky, really. So, but I think Leeds will be absolutely fine. But I think Arsenal against Leeds will probably at home will just have too much, and I expect Arsenal to come at them a bit more than I hope they did than what they did against United. So I'm going to go for Arsenal 2, Leeds 0, but I think Leeds will still give a good account of themselves. I think they'll have a lot of the ball.
I also have Arsenal 2, Leeds 0. And again, when we talk about players that we sign that don't need to cost money, Tanaka at £3 million.
Great player.
It's a very good signing, isn't it? So again, let's not go down. So we move to Sunday, and now this game has taken on a whole new edge from when it ever has done in the past. Normally, Crystal Palace hosting Nottingham Forest would be nothing to see here. Move along.
I want to see Steve Parish giving a left-right good night to Marinakis, and I want to see him punching on the pitch.
They're not in the same weight class, mate. Don't worry, that wouldn't happen.
I don't think any of the owners are in the same weight class, are they?
Yeah, it's funny how the computer kicks us out. Now, like I say, obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff that we haven't got the time or the inclination to get involved in here in terms of whether teams should or shouldn't be in what European competition. however we cut it, and because there'll be people that are closer to it and know better than us, however we cut it, it's left a bad taste. And I can see this one being a little bit spicy, a little bit spiky. I can see the crowd being at it and up for it. I can see there being some probably quite entertaining chants going on through the game. Now, the Palace fans are great, of course, in terms of what they bring in, and the Nottingham Forest travelling fans will be good. So I'm expecting a great atmosphere. Footballing-wise, do you think it's fair to say that we got an inflated opinion of Nottingham Forest because they played Brentford and now playing Palace will give us a real steer of where Nottingham Forest actually are?
Took the words out of my mouth. Absolutely. I think people have then gone, Forest are going to carry on this tremendous form from last season. Their pre-season, I know pre-season isn't sort of a yardstick of where you are, but their pre-season was dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. I think they've played one of the best clubs they could as an opening game. Chris Wood, obviously scoring goals again. I don't think they'll be the same team this year. I'll put my neck on the line. I think they're not going to struggle. They'll be nowhere near relegation, but they're not going to be the same level that they were. They've tried to transition to a more attacking style of play during pre-season. That is not Nuno whatsoever. So if they do go down that route, it's going to cost them. I hope he carries on with the game plan from last season and tries to tweak it a little bit, but I don't think there will be. I think Palace will win this. My only worry is Eze may be off. And is he going to be available for the game? I'm going with, yes, he is going to be available for the game. So I'm going with the Palace team that we know. I think they'll have too much going forward for Forest. I think they're a very, very good side. Palace, they've almost kicked on from last year from what I saw against Chelsea. They could just probably do with a bit more strengthening. But I think they'll have too much for Nottingham Forest, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I take on board everything you said there. I think, again, depending on who you listen to, there was a bit of a hiccup late last night with the Eze deal, so it's not quite done yet. Yeah. I think everybody still thinks it will get done, but my understanding is that Mr. Parrish has upset Mr. Levy with the last minute adjustment of numbers. So whether he's in the team or not is yet to be decided. Of course, Nottingham Forest have gone out and signed a whole bunch of players. So actually, we don't really know whether James McAtee or Amari Hutchinson are going to be playing as an example. They've signed a forward from France, whose name I definitely can't pronounce. So, they've gone out and signed some players. For me, this has got an entertaining draw written all over it. For me, this is going to be I'm going to go for a Desmond on this one. I think 2-2. I think this could be the game of the weekend in terms of entertainment. Of course, the big one still to come in terms of Monday night football, but I think this could be a really entertaining game in the stands, on the pitch, tackles flying, and I could see this being, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a red card in this game as well.
No, that wouldn't surprise me at all. So I think this is our first difference. I've gone for a Palace 2, Forest 1 win. Just think Palace will probably have a little bit too much, because if the Eze deal does get done early, I would imagine that they'll have a replacement already lined up and probably in the door ready to come in. So I just think they'll have a little bit too much going forward.
So the two things for the Eze deal to happen are there has to be a replacement in. So Crystal Palace are absolutely 100% adamant on that. They're not going to go until they've got a replacement. And the second one is that Daniel Levy bend to the finals twist at Steve Parrish's place.
But it looks like the replacement's Bilal El Khanous from Leicester.
Correct. Yes. Who, with all due respect to the player, is a massive drop off.
At this minute, I think the potential's there, isn't it? The potential's there, but at this minute in time, then they're not even the same style. They're playing the same position, but they're not the same style of player, so they'll have to adapt to that as well. Yeah,
again, I think there's at least a 5, maybe a 6 year gap between the two in terms of age, and so of course in 5 years' time, I think Khanous could be that player. I'm talking about the here and now. I'm talking about the impact on Sunday's game. Eze is going to be a massive loss because he feels like, he's part of the leadership team. He's one of the
the way he started the season, or finished this last season and started this season as well. He looks like he's on the top of his game. So if he does leave, he's going to be a huge, huge miss. And
by the way, if Spurs do get him, that is arguably Tottenham's biggest signing since I can't remember who. I think it would be an absolute unbelievable piece of business for Tottenham, or whatever the number is, if they get that over the line. Everton host Brighton and Hove Albion 2:00. And by the way, I do like the fact that you can now watch both 2:00 kickoffs. I enjoyed that on Sunday because to be able to pick between. I thought that was albeit not necessary. I thought it was actually quite good. So we can watch either of these games. They're all on Sky. Everton host Brighton. Both teams a little bit meh. Brighton looked like they were going to beat Fulham, conceded a late goal, which is not like them normally. But again, there were some good signs in there. Everton huffed and puffed in the second half, but never looked like scoring, didn't create a clear-cut chance. And Leeds, albeit through a very dodgy penalty that we've already discussed, deserved the win. So this is going to be interesting because it's the first game at the new stadium. And I think that's what's going to be enough to take everything. I can see it being full of emotion. I can see Jack Grealish being. I mean, I can just I can just see this being a Everton 1-0, 2-1 sort of a game, and because Everton need that, right? They need to get off to a good start in a new stadium because otherwise that starts to become a weight around your neck as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I get everything you said there, and I would normally agree, but I was so deflated with that Everton performance. Honestly, I was first I was gobsmacked by his team selection, by some of the players he had on the bench. I was thinking that the obvious thing to do is throw Grealish in. Like, he changes your outlook on the 11. And I just thought, what are you doing with that selection? Then after how they started, comparing the two teams, you look at the experience in that Everton team, they hardly had the ball. I think at half time, it was something like 14 shots to naught against the promoted team. And I thought, that's not what I was I was expecting Everton to really kick on this year and be popping from the word go. They look dreadful to me. So I'm hoping you're right of that, new stadium, all the emotion will kick in and they'll give it a good go. But to me, Brighton are one of the worst teams you want coming there on an opening day, because if they keep the ball for a long period of time, that enthusiasm could be curbed within 10 minutes if they don't touch the ball and it carries on from last week. So I've gone for a draw here. But I can absolutely understand the opinion of Everton winning at home opening day at the new stadium. But I think Brighton are one of the worst teams you want coming.
100%. I just, sometimes when you're talking about what you think is going to happen, you go with your head. Sometimes you go with your heart, and sometimes you've got to find a logic. And I just think that having watched it online, the journey from one stadium to the other, I can see the Everton fans getting more and more excited. I think they've made a couple of interesting signs. I think Dewsbury Hall's an interesting, because he's not what I would call a stereotypical Everton player. I didn't think he was particularly great on Monday night, but I think that there's time, like you say, Jack Grealish coming in, you got Ndiaye, Dwight McNeil. You've got a couple of players there that really could add some excitement to
even the new forward Tierno Barry. Like, he's getting rave reviews, and he was on the bench. I just thought, I want to give him something to shout about. The fans get behind it, and that start, not having a shot in 45 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And so I'm not talking here from a statistical. I think if you ask me to, I'd go for a draw. But I'm just putting a massive amount of credit. I think about that last game at Goodison Park, the emotion that was attached to that. That was an unbelievable day. Like, I loved watching that. I think it won't be the same, but it will be close. And I think that'll be enough to take Everton home 2-1.
Yeah, I've gone 1-1.
Now, Craven Cottage, Fulham versus Manchester United. Now, I didn't call this my banker of the week. I haven't put it in. I'm going to put it in. I'm going a little bit crazy with my £5 challenge, by the way.
Sounds it. Yeah. I don't think there'd be a need for a P&L if this comes in for you.
It's actually, it's 200 quid. But I was really impressed, without being really impressed with Man United. I thought they did lots of things really well. I could see Cunha being an absolute star for them. I thought Mbeumo looked lively. Defensively, I thought they looked pretty good. I mean, it was only a goalkeeping error that led to the Arsenal goal. And I think you had Seshko to that mix. That Man United squad's starting to look stronger. For me, the issue is in the sixth role. I think that Casemiro is not what they should be starting with, in my humble opinion. And then bringing Agate on is no better. But I think Manchester United will have way too much for Fulham here, and I think this is an away win.
Couldn't agree with you more. Again, I had a selection of bankers to pick from, and they were one of them. I think they'll win this pretty comfortably. Like you said, I thought the front three, Mason Mount looked like a new player to me. Like, when they first started, I thought, you've got two forwards on the bench. Like, at least start one of them. But actually, Mason Mount was probably their best player on the day. I was really impressed with them. I'd agree with you on the Casemiro is not what you need, but I thought he looked thinner. He looked fitter. He looked like he was ratting around like he was a couple of seasons ago. So I was impressed with him in that game, because when I looked at him in midfield, I thought, he could get absolutely torn to bits there. But I was impressed with him, as in not to the levels he was of years ago. But yeah, I thought he looked fitter. So I think these are an absolute cert, United to beat Fulham. Fulham, again, it's just the feeling around the club. Haven't signed anyone, haven't lost anyone, but you almost want to go in with a bit, we've got a few new players. Like, they just know they're going to be relatively secure. There'll be no trouble this year, but I just don't like the feeling around Fulham. I think United, after that game, a lot of the fans have come away probably more enthused than if they'd have won 1-0. Like, I think they were really excited by it. So, yeah, I think away win, and they're a good price.
The thing I was most impressed about the Man United fans is that they almost gave the players a standing ovation off the pitch after losing a game. And it shows that the fans are invested in the process as well and could see the improvement. So for me, I think it's actually a really exciting time for Manchester United. And I think actually they're in a good place. They're not going to finish top four. I've seen some crazy stuff going on. They're still a long way away from the top four teams. But they will definitely be much closer to those European places if they carry on that trajectory. And they're just 1 or 2 players away from being really good.
Definitely. And do you know, if they can have the end to the window that they need to get in the bad eggs out, like your Garnachos, he needs to get out there. He stinks. I don't even rate him, if I'm being honest. I think he's miles overrated, but get him out. He stinks. Get a few of the other players out the door that they need. And if they can get another 1 or 2 in, that squad is starting to shape, isn't it? And you can see the fans behind Amarin in the club. So they're definitely going in the right direction. And as much as I've enjoyed United's downfall, the Premier League needs a strong Manchester United in it to flourish. So
100%.
I do like to see them coming back.
Yeah, absolutely right. Spot on. How do you see this one going? What do you see this ball being?
I've gone Fulham 0, Manchester United 2.
I do think Fulham still have that opportunity. You know, they've got a couple of good set pieces. I think Wilson, obviously, Muniz is a forward that if they can hold on to them, they'll have done well. So for me, I think they will score, but I think it'll be 1-3. We wrap up game week as with everybody, of course, at St James's Park. Again, when we talk about emotion, when we talk about feeling, this one's going to be full of it. Hopefully, the two boards can come together and help a player out that's maybe being thrown under the bus a little bit, or certainly not helped by certain people along the way. And again, I don't think we need to get into whether Isak has done good, bad, or ugly here. You know, it's not a good look for anybody. I think this has been a real sad affair for both Newcastle and Liverpool, if I'm being honest with you. And so, hopefully, we can just have a great game of football, because normally these games are great games of football, aren't they? Newcastle Liverpool is one of those historical games that you look forward to watching.
Yes, it's normally a cracking game. I can just see this whole Isak thing. I can just see Liverpool dominating the game. I know you go, the previous champions. Of course, you can say it's not down to Liverpool. I'd say it's more down to Newcastle. I think the feeling around the club, this whole Isak thing, is just hanging over them, and it's leaving such a sour taste in the mouth that I think it's going to really affect the season until it's either the transfer window sorted and he starts playing again, which is still going to affect them because the fans aren't going to forgive him quickly. Like, I thought his statement he put out was bollocks, if I'm being honest. I thought it was a horrendous statement to put out. There was no accountability there for him. I thought it was dreadful. It wasn't anything, didn't say anything to the fans. I just can't see how Liverpool don't win this game, which is a shame because I really fancied Newcastle to kick on, but I just think Liverpool are going to have too much for a team which seemed to be on a real downer.
Yeah, Newcastle looked toothless without him at the weekend, albeit against a very good Aston Villa team. I do still, if I was going to put a bet, I'd say both teams to score, because Liverpool are not the same defensively. You can get at them, especially with the pace that Newcastle have up there. I can see Gordon and Elanga, if not finishing chances, because neither of them are prolific goal scorers. I can see them causing Liverpool a bunch of problems, because I thought defensively Liverpool, Jamie Carragher did a great piece, and you just had to see how Semenyo ran from one length of the pitch to the other through the middle there. They were missing a couple of sort of holding midfield players, certainly, to Gravenberch and McAllister. I think they're both back, so that might see a difference. But it's just a shame that the Premier League, the product of it is, and as a neutral, I want to see Isak playing games of football because he makes the game better. And I think it's a real shame that if I'm being honest, I don't actually care whether he plays for Liverpool or Newcastle. I don't support either team. I just want the guy playing football. However, I would say he's been horrendously advised. But I think it will be a big enough swing in Liverpool's favour to make this in the way.
Yep, agreed.
So I'm going to go for 2-1 Liverpool.
Same. I've gone for Newcastle 1, Liverpool 2.
We've got quite a few in there the same this week, which is interesting.
We have. I think we're only one prediction off a full house of agreement of results.
Yeah. So if I was listening to this, I'd be doing the exact opposite, because that's what's going to happen. Right, we're going to get none right. Okay, so I've given you the build up to my £5 challenge, but let's come to yours first. So we've got the bankers locked in. Mine is Aston Villa, and yours was Chelsea.
Yeah.
Your £5 challenge this week, Brian?
I've had so many teams in this and moved it around, and so I've ended up going for Aston Villa, Man United, and Bournemouth for £44.
Good. They're all in mine. They're all in mine. But you need to add a little bit of Chelsea with a little bit of Sunderland. Salt and pepper me up. £1 back from a fiver.
90. So that's literally what I was going to do, and then I was thinking one of them's going to let it down, isn't it? So I've just gone safer, but I absolutely can see all those winning. I just think if you're going to have a double as well, Sunderland have got to be in it for the value. It's such a value pick.
The way I look at it, mate, is if that comes in for the next 20 weeks, I can't possibly be in a negative. I'm almost guaranteeing a season in profit with that win. Obviously, it's a long shot. I get that. And if I was looking for an absolute cert that's still decent money, I would remove Sunderland and Bournemouth out of that, and you'd keep the Man U, Aston Villa,
that
Chelsea.
Double, I think even just the Villa Man U double is rock solid.
Yeah, it's good odds as well. I mean, obviously, £5 brings you back, like I say, 23 quid, which is a great return. I might place this one on Sky Bet with the freeze if some of them do go ahead. I might just jump on that.
Yeah.
Although, having said that, I can't. I'm in the aeroplane. I'm actually in the aeroplane. No, I'm not. I'm at the airport. I'll be all right. I'll be at the airport.
That's I think if you're gonna have five, if you're gonna have an accumulator with five, you might not get as good odds. But if you've got a longer shot in there, get on the Sky Bet. That freeze is invaluable.
It can be, mate. Yeah, you got to be on it. You got to be switched on.
It's no good having it and then letting it run. You've got to be on it, ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we were last season, messaging each other, going freeze, freeze, freeze. Like, but it's if you can do it, you can make real killing, and it's a really good pick. So if you've not got Sky Bet, get on it because it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be. Awesome. Enjoyed that, mate. As always, where can people find us? Where can people shout abuse at us and tell us that we're wrong?
So we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can watch any episodes there. From a social media perspective, we are on X, Facebook, and TikTok. We'll try and get a few little short videos out on TikTok. But yeah, search for The Atmosphere is Electric or TAIE Podcast, and you'll be able to find us.
Amazing, mate. As always, really, really enjoyed that. Let's see how many of these predictions we get right this week. And whatever happens, I'll speak to you next week, mate. Have a great one.